Man, Deltarune was good. Those new chapters were amazing, man, and that music. It's crazy how they were able to do that in such a short time. I mean, it's only been like 1 year since chapter 2, right? What do you mean? Time is a very weird thing. The Switch was 8 years ago. The average rat lifespan is 2. Time is just never moving how you expect it to move. I refuse to believe it's been 6 years since Silksong's announcement. I can't take that. Waiting sucks. I don't want to wait a minute for my microwaved Pop-Tart, much less 4 years for a game. And would you believe me if I told you 4 years was on the nicer side? There are double-digit year-long waits for games. At some points, it can feel like a game is never going to come out. And while that can be a bit of an exaggeration, sometimes it's not. You know, back in the Stone Age era of the 1980s, it wouldn't really be like this. You'd have a 2-year wait between mainline Mario games, and those were console jumps from the NES to the SNES. Nowadays, it's been 8 years without an announcement for a new 3D Mario game. In 8 years, Mario Bros. 1, 2, 3, and World came out. But that isn't a bad thing. Games need more time as of late. As they say, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Did he actually say that? They lied to me. Deltarune's a good example of this. Deltarune released a mere 3 years after its predecessor, Undertale. A very active 3 years since the game had console re-releases and anniversary live streams. To say that Undertale was popular would be an understatement, which is why a successor probably came so early. But Deltarune was nothing like your average sequel. In fact, it wasn't even marketed as a game. It was originally a Halloween survey that was misinterpreted as a virus, but Deltarune didn't just come out. 1/7 of it came out. Deltarune was split into 7 chapters, with only the first one being released. Considering how the chapter ended on a bit of a narrative cliffhanger, a lot of people were wondering when we'd see Deltarune again. 3 years. Chapter 2 released in 2021, 3 years after the game's 2018 debut. And it was a massive chapter, certainly worth the wait. Though, 3 years for one chapter of a 7-chapter game might seem like a bit much. Let's hope chapter 3 can come out a bit quicker than 4 years was the wait between chapter 2 and 3, and to be fair, chapter 3 did come with chapter 4. And there was the existence of a newsletter which gave monthly updates and teasers for the next chapters. Still, that's 7 years from the debut of the game to the halfway point of the game. Someone could have first played chapter 1 as a junior and first played chapter 4 having college finished. Is that a bad thing? No, Deltarune is a passion project. They need to take as much time as they need. Sure, 7 years is enough to pay car loans, but, you know, a delayed game is eventually bad, a rushed game is forever good, as they say. GTA 6 is a very good example of take your time. Grand Theft Auto 5 is the second most sold game of all time, and it's been 12 years since its release. The game was announced in December of 2023, over 10 years of no communication from GTA 5's release, with the exception of the famous, yeah, we're working on it. After so long, GTA 6 had its first trailer and was slated to be released in the fall of 2025. A delayed game is eventually good. How badly a wait can be isn't solely dependent on the time waited. The suffering the wait entails is probably more important. And delays are some of the worst things to encounter in a wait. Delays remind me of Breath of the Wild. Announced in 2013 for the Wii U, it would be the Wii U's first original Zelda game in a sea of remakes and HD ports. And it was confirmed for a release window of 2016. By this point, we only had one footage for Breath of the Wild. We didn't even know its name. And even though the Nintendo NX, now known as the Switch, was on the horizon, Nintendo kept clear that it was still releasing on the Wii U. I mean, that makes sense. The mysterious NX wouldn't even be released yet by the time of 2017. You know what? It's a launch title. Breath of the Wild released as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch on March 17th of 2017. And I will admit, the delays were worth it. Breath of the Wild was one of the most influential games of the time. And to give it credit, it did release on the Wii U. The phrase stays true. A game is eventually a game, but a game is forever game. I've have to check where I'm downloading these from. You don't really get to talk about delays without talking about Duke Nukem Forever, a game announced on April of 1997, slated for Christmas of 1998, and released in 2011. The game's development went through 5 US presidencies, the turn of the millennium, and a nationwide pandemic and drug epidemic. For a 5 out of 10. Weren't delayed games supposed to be good? Sometimes it's not a game that's never coming out, but an update. Geometry Dash is a game that got regular updates very constantly, multiple a year at one point. They introduced new levels, new game modes, new music, more, which kept the community alive for so long. Then 2.2 came around, 6 years after 2.1. It's one of the most notable examples of an update taking very long, considering, it's an update, not a full game, which usually takes less than 6 years, but an update. And the game was being worked on for the entirety of those 6 years. DLC kind of counts as an update, right? Whatever. Cuphead's DLC, The Delicious Last Course, was revealed in E3 of 2018. It was slated for a 2019 release, but got pushed back into 2020, where the pandemic happened and pushed it back even further. There is a heaping pile of games that were delayed due to the pandemic, with Cuphead being delayed all the way to 2022. And with all this waiting and delays and lack of hope and lack of communication, it can make fans a little bit exasperated. An insane fandom happens when you just can't take it anymore. The obvious example for this is Hollow Knight's Silksong. Announced in February of 2019, Silksong has gone through a lot before its release. That same year was playable at E3, which had a lot of people hopeful that it was coming soon. 2020 had some minor updates, but until 2022, nothing of note really happened. Then in 2022, they pulled out the famous, we're working on it. But also in 2022 came a trailer in Xbox's Game Showcase, showing new footage in a release window of 12 months. Meaning from this point on, Silksong was going to release within a year. Why do I even try? It got delayed, there was a total of 0 updates between the trailer and the delay announcement, and they didn't show anything off with the delay, it's just a tweet. It's unfortunate, and how they handled it could have been better, but I'm sure there are more updates to come in the future. There were no updates to come in the future. You can't use the famous we're working on it twice. There was a chocolate cake ARG that led to nothing, but maybe actually led to something. The fandom turning into Skong, and a lot more until finally the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct showed us 6 seconds of footage, along with a release window of 2025. Silksong has become the most infamous indie game to have an incredibly long wait behind it. Daily Silksong news is on day 1625. But that's what happens when a wait is long and difficult. You don't make it to Twitter's trending page for nothing. I'm impatient too, I know what it feels like to wait. It sucks and I'm tired and I just want to play Skong, but we do need to be thankful that these games are coming out. Even if communication is really bad or delays are rampant, the game will still see the light of day. We can't say the same thing about the millions of cancelled games that might never be played by the public. It's fun to act like a game will never come out, but stick it through and you'll get your hands on Silksong eventually. Just remember how the saying goes. A delayed game, bad game design.